presentation of AIT.
Good morning, boys and girls.
Good morning, Mrs. Lamar.
I want to welcome you to Van Spirit Day. You've so often heard me say that I'm very proud to be the principal of Van School, because to me, Van School is very special. We have 3 special ingredients. We have tremendous students, terrific teachers, and outstanding parents. Therefore, with those 3 ingredients, Van School really is the greatest school on earth.
Van School is part of the Pittsburgh public school system. You can almost see it from here, located just beyond those buildings in a part of town known as the Hill District. The Hill District is a densely populated urban area. Like many inner city neighborhoods in America, the Hill District is mostly African American and mostly impoverished, with a reputation for crime-ridden neighborhoods, substandard housing, and dysfunctional schools. Situated less than a quarter-mile down the hill from Van is another elementary school. It's the kind of school we expect to find in surroundings like these, a school with low achievement scores. The Robert L. Van Elementary School, however, has a much different record. Year after year, for more than 20 years running, Van's math and reading scores have placed it at or near the top of Pittsburgh's public schools. Demographic differences don't account for the difference in achievement between the schools. They both serve the same student population, drawn from virtually the same projects and neighborhoods.
Is it? Well, happy birthday.
Nor can we dismiss Van's history of success as an anomaly. Just a short distance away, Madison Elementary School has consciously modeled itself on Van, and in recent years has regularly matched or surpassed its sister school on measures of academic achievement.
I promise to do my best. I promise to do my best. To report for duty on time. To report for duty on time. To perform my duties faithfully. To perform my duties faithfully.
Why should one school consistently succeed where another, serving the same population in the same geographic locale, consistently fails?
Okay, something that makes you laugh, and what Jamel just said, taken by surprise, is one way that a writer can make his story humorous. Do you remember some
According to the parents, teachers, and students of Van School, the formula for success is simple.
Surprise or something unexpected.
Good teaching in an atmosphere conducive to learning. For Doris Brevard, principal at Van School, that formula begins with a clear routine and with discipline.
If you are disciplined, then you're here to learn. You want to learn. And it's so very easy to be taught if you have discipline.
Good morning, Mrs. Hillgartner.
The majority of the children in the Van area come from a single-parent home. 90% of our children are on free lunch, which means the household receives assistance. We try to make the atmosphere in the school conducive to learning, however, we don't want it to be oppressive. We develop a routine for them because outside of school, there's no routine. And we feel that a routine is important for them to establish within the school building.
Good morning, boys and girls.
Good morning, Mr. K.
Okay, what
The single-parent home, of course, is so interested in survival, they can't devote too much time to the home situation or to the education of the child. Therefore, we have to meet those needs when they come here within the building. I expect the children that come into Van to respect the adults, but I also want them to respect themselves. I expect the children to do their very best in every written assignment, in every test, in every recitation. I expect the very best.
Water, that's right.
What's the first sound you hear? Sound. What's the spelling?
A successful school is a school within which a child is totally educated.
Lined. What's it now? What's the next sound you hear?
And every child meets his or her potential.
Lined.
I.
Which eye is it?
I blinking.
Put it down.
Not all children are going to be A students or B students even. But if you're a good C student, then your accomplishments should be at the C level.
You're going ahead of me. Erase your D. We're missing a sound. We're going to do this step by step. We're going to get it right. Okay? Listen, Eugene. Line.
The teacher keeps a constant check on the progress of the children, and I rely on his or her definition of whether or not the child has succeeded.
Tell me. Great job. I knew you could do it. Very good.
You don't want to send him on not prepared.
Right.
Because that's going to be disastrous. We feel here if you can solve the problems, if you can get the children help at a very young age, then that will eliminate the more serious problems when they get older. That's why we stress in the beginning of the reading instruction that the children master whatever is being taught before they move on.
Describe it, all the sounds.
It's a red balloon with white and purple stripe.
Perfect.
For so many years, you heard constantly that the African American child could not learn. And it was our aim here to prove that the African American child could achieve just as well as any other child.
Let's run the line.
We don't have any hidden secrets.
3 cards for each.
We're just using the curriculum that's provided by the board, but our secret is we meet the needs of our children.
All right. The first thing we're going to do today is go over our cards. Let's do the sounds first. Is everyone watching? Sound. Sound. Sound.
The Van primary team teaches reading using the open court phonetic method.
Sound.
Their enthusiasm for the method stems from the fact that it seems to meet the particular needs of Van school students. First grade teacher Gloria Mathis explains.
The open court is phonetic, and I love it because they're not just learning words, they're not just memorizing, they're learning sounds.
Very good. I like the way you did those sounds. Let's do the names now. What's the name of this card?
Everyone works together. If you have someone who's a little bit quicker than someone else, it kind of pulls the group along, and if someone's not quite catching on, it gives them a chance to see what's going on through one of their peers.
What's the name of this card?
Teachers on the primary team work closely together to determine what works and what doesn't. Their common goal is to lay the foundations for academic success. They consciously strive to preserve a structured, disciplined classroom that nonetheless reflects warmth, friendliness, and enthusiasm.
I love teaching. I love being in the classroom. This is my heart. I wouldn't be anywhere else. And I enjoy working with the younger children because you get the opportunity to reach them when they're just starting out. Their minds are open and they're willing to just accept, and you can watch them grow.
Oh, I like the way you did that. Did you see the way Veronica did that? She put her I blank E, and then she remembered to go back and put her ending sound on the blank. Good job, Monica. Marcus, line 3, the second blank. The word is leaf. Leaf.
The primary team's purpose is to ensure success, even if that means holding back students until they're ready to move on.
Look at the sound. This is a person.
Nadine Digga teaches the Early Learning Skills program ELS. Mrs. Digga has taught at Van for 23 years.
You got it. Spit it out.
Carpenter.
Nah, carpenter fixes houses. Who is it, Stephen?
Mechanic.
Good for you. Mechanic.
The ELS program stands for Early Learning Skills, and it's really a transition period between the kindergarten and the more formalized first grade. Most of the children who come through the Early Learning Skills program have been in kindergarten for a year, and for various reasons they were not ready to go on to the formal first grade. Sometimes it's immaturity, sometimes it's a minor learning disability that with one extra year getting the basic skills, they can go on then to be a successful student in the first grade. There are some skills that we have to repeat a lot. So I'm always looking for different ways to work on the same skills so that the motivational level of the children stays high.
On her own time and with her husband's help, Mrs. Digga has created a series of computer-based lessons to enhance the learning experience for her ELS pupils. The programs provide a creative way to teach repetitive material.
Academically, we think it's working well, but probably the most interesting part has been the self-confidence that it's building in the children, because for some reason being able to work a computer makes them feel like they are really special people.
You hear A at the end of a word.
Mrs. Brevard regularly monitors classroom performance to ensure that achievement in learning remains the primary goal of all classroom activities.
Where they might use a cane.
You have to be interested in children. You have to want to teach.
Sound.
You're not interested in just the paycheck.
Okay. If something is the same, what do you think, Shaniqua?
You're interested in achievement. The principal must provide the atmosphere. And then it's the teacher's job to teach. But if that teacher can go into his or her classroom and teach 35 minutes of the 40-minute period, then something will be accomplished.
Who's going to cook the turkey?
How would you cook a turkey? Cut it up, and then what do you do with it?
I find the most successful way that I can monitor teachers is very informal, by going into the classroom, participating in the class.
Pumpkin and grapes, my favorite. Apples.
I'm interested in the response of the children.
So I'm looking forward to a letter from you using cursive writing.
If they're doing written work, I check the written work to be sure that it is correct, that it is the best that they can do.
That's nice. That's lovely.
Mrs. Brevard sets an outstanding tone for the building. She establishes her expectations, and we know that when we come here, there are high expectations for both students and teachers. And we rise to the occasion. Have you all come for supper? And the bad baby said,
Teacher
yes.
Kathy Gallagher is also the Van School librarian. Ms. Gallagher's enthusiasm reinforces learning and draws students like these first graders into the magic of reading.
Everyone. And then the elephant went
Rompinter, 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 all down the road.
My main goal would be to teach them to love to read, to make them lifetime readers. And the lady from the candy store and the fruit and vegetable man all running after. But the bad baby went right to
sleep.
Right, that was good. Thank you. Thank you for helping.
All right, we have two parts to a sentence. We have naming part. You have to have both of these to make a complete sentence. Now, I have some cards, but they are not sentences yet. They are only parts of the sentence. And I need someone to come up and read one of these cards and tell me whether it should go in the naming part or in the telling part.
Marita Maloney continues to accentuate the basics, providing students with the tools they will need to succeed in the higher grades.
The baby pig.
I wonder if that's a naming part or a telling part. Simone.
A naming part.
Good. Would you put that in the naming bag, please? Good. I have another one here.
Children who leave the primary grades at Van leave with a sense of achievement, success, and self-confidence.
What does it say?
In every class at Van School, there is a conscious effort to reinforce a positive self-image.
Look like you're happy. That's what you have to look like on Friday. That's a pep assembly.
Achievement. Doing one's best is stressed throughout the curriculum.
So often the African American child has a defeatist attitude. Therefore, we stress that they are important, that they can succeed, that they are somebody, and they can be somebody. And that's something that you have to teach every day in every lesson.
Performance is what puts Van students on top in the primary grades.
Good job.
But how is this high level of achievement sustained in grades 3, 4, and 5?
All right, anything else a writer can do to make a story humorous, Amber?
Mrs. Lipsman's 5th grade reading class shows how Van students rise to the challenge.
A pun. That's right. Perfect. All right.
I really believe that it's a question of high expectations more than anything else. We have teachers who are actively involved with the students, who have students actively involved with the learning process.
But if we look for two things, we really get a summary. What do I ask for? Clarence.
I think one of the things that makes us very special is that we are consistent in terms of what we expect from our children.
Problem is
consistent from grades kindergarten through grades 5.
And I want, obviously, Jamie, details that tell me how the solving, right.
I always stress the fact that the success that Van has achieved is really because of the teaching. Because if we didn't have successful teaching, of course, we would not have the good scores and the good accomplishments.
The next building has 3 apartments. These doors are the apartment doors. Our third
In
building
math,
also has...
Van students consistently rank at the top of the Pittsburgh public school system.
How many apartments in the whole complex? 12. Okay, so we're working on numbers up to 12 digits.
What puts Van's math scores on top is good, solid teaching at the hands of experienced professionals like Eileen Fabric in this 5th grade math class.
10 times larger than the apartment to its right. So the tens is 10 times larger than the ones, the hundreds is 10 times larger than the tens, the thousands is 10
I think the high scores are attributed to the children's motivation. They're highly motivated in math.
they want to do well. They know they can, and they want to succeed. All right, I'm going to ask you a different kind of question now. Which number is in the 100 billions place, and what is the value of it? 100 billion. Nathan? 5, and what's the value of that 5?
500 billion?
500 billion. Can you write it?
Yes.
Without the chart? See if you can write it without looking at the chart. I hope I'm laying a strong foundation for them in later life, hoping to prepare them for middle school, eventually for secondary school. Concentrate on what you told me. You said 500 billion. And ultimately for lifetime. Is he correct?
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Math lessons are reinforced by practical experience. Here, Ms. Fabric helps the children learn how to maintain their own savings accounts at a neighborhood bank. This type of involvement is part of Ms. Fabric's teaching style.
Picture yesterday instead of a small one. What else was different?
Ms. Gallagher's emphasis on active dialogue with her students, like these fourth graders, is the key element in her teaching style.
Same picture yesterday, so like Carmen said, we really had... There should be some mystery to it, and I think there should be some fun to it, and I think that children learn best when they're comfortable with you. I think you have to establish trust, and I think you need humor in the classroom. What else do we look for?
Plot.
Plot! Oh my, plot! What is plot? And I try to incorporate all of this into my teaching.
The action or the drama in the story.
The action or the drama in the story. Great. So we're going to look for all of those things in everybody's story. And why do we read other people's stories? Why do we read them? I want them to be able to communicate with the written word. Chaz, will you move closer to the audience so we'll be able to hear better? Thank you.
Looking at the stars. Once upon a time, there were 3 friends, John,
And
Billy,
in order for them to do that, I think they have to experience
they were walking
many
through the park
different types
when John
of writing.
saw something. What's that? Said John. Billy
It gives
said,
them a chance to read their story orally. It gives them a chance to hear each other's stories. And it gives them a chance to understand what someone else has put into their story.
So they kept the thing until it stopped working. They never knew that it took batteries.
Comments for Chad? Every child can learn. Every child can succeed. And I think at Van, every child does.
Spirit Day at Van School. At this assembly, success is the only item on the agenda, with awards to students for academic excellence. For developing instructional computer programs on their own time, a rose to Mrs. Digga and her husband.
And I'm sure she'll extend our thanks and appreciation to Mr. Digga. Thank you.
And special congratulations to a student and his family on the child's improved behavior and achievement. Fifth grader Dayron Dedrick is a good example of success at Van School. Dayron is a good student who's also emerged as a school leader this year. Every day, Dayron, his younger brother Kevin, and their friend head for home through the streets of the Hill District. Home for Dayron is the projects, where retaining the values learned at Van requires a conscious choice. It helps that Dayron and Kevin have strong parental support.
With both of them, I'm very, very, very pleased. I think that Dayron, being an older brother, is setting a really good example for Kevin to follow. I think that Van is a good school.
No, that's why your Kool-Aid been tasting like that.
They do a good job with the children as far as discipline. And if you don't have those type of teachers that they have to push the kids to excel and succeed, then it would never happen.
Despite the fact that many Van parents are fully occupied in the struggle for survival, The school has an active and supportive PTO.
This time for the afternoon kindergarten too, because we have a half day.
Mrs. Jenkins is this year's PTO president. Her daughter Leilani is in the second grade.
The PTO is there so we can help the kids. Without the PTO, they wouldn't have certain things that they could get, like field trip money, or maybe there's a field trip going to the museum, or money funded for them just to get some books or something like that.
PTO activities like this treasure chest, which rewards weekly achievement, help make Van a success. But parents don't hesitate to identify the real key to Van's success.
Keep up the good work.
Mrs. Bavard, she's what makes it work. I see her as being consistent, which is a key when you're dealing with children. And she goes for no nonsense, and she is in charge of her school and no one else. Mrs. Bavard and a wonderful staff that she has is what makes Van work.
The grandparents might have just come into the picture last spring.
Maybe so.
Well, I've known Mrs. Brevard for the entire 23 years that she's been a principal
Oh, yes,
at Van.
because here's mother.
And from the very beginning, she
and
has indeed been a risk taker.
So he must have come in.
She is constantly thinking and aware of what's good for the kids at Van. If central office comes out with a new initiative or a new program, and she does not feel that it fits within our philosophy or our framework for these particular youngsters, she'll dismiss it, and she won't allow it to be part of our curriculum or our program.
So we will increase by 10.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really think there's been too much emphasis that the principal is the most important element, whereas it is the teachers, because if the teachers really aren't concerned about the school, if they really aren't dedicated, then regardless of what I do, whether I monitor them, I don't care what kind of atmosphere I produce, if they're not interested, they're not going to take or play their part in the development of the school. My job is more or less to keep the teachers interested, to keep them involved.
After us comes tea.
And to let them know that I appreciate what they've done. And I tell them that daily.
Presentation of AIT.
Walk into a classroom at the new Suncook School. You're never sure what you might find. Students in large groups, in small groups, working alone. The word that comes to mind is chaos.
What's happening, do you think?
The initial impression is that it's bedlam, that there's a lot of noise and what is going on, and it doesn't look like school like when I went to school.
Then there are the hallways, used for reading, instruction, and even singing.
With his feather on his back, he ruled the others with his quack, quack, quack.
But despite the noise, despite the apparent chaos, this is a school with one mission: to enable all students to become lifelong learners.
This is a code. A what? A what?
I think that some people get hung up on the idea that the structure is the important part of what's happening. And to me, what's most important is the interaction between teacher and child.
Ooh, what do you say? Oh, wait a minute, he's not done yet.
The atmosphere is unusual. So are the results.
There attached to the...
Yeah!
The new Suncook School is recognized as a model of teaching and a model of learning.
That part, that's where he was hanging from.
And for the latest weather across western Maine and the White Mountains, over to Lovell, Maine, and a good morning to Dana Bean.
Today, it should be mostly sunny, temperatures near 80.
Thursday, another sunny day, temperatures possibly reaching 90 degrees tomorrow. Well, Jeff, enjoy the little things. One day you may look back and realize they were the big things.
Have a good day, Jeff.
Dana Bean gives his daily weather forecast from this farmhouse, right across the street from one of the highest achieving elementary schools in Maine. The new Suncook School is located in the town of Lovell, Maine. Population 888. It's in the rural western part of the state, an area of chronic unemployment. About 1/3 of the students are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. Despite its isolation and the economic conditions of the area it serves, New Suncook School has earned a national reputation for excellence. It's a reputation that started with the arrival of Principal Gary McDonald 9 years ago.
We think we can make a difference. We think the teachers can make a difference, and that we think that we can enable and create environments that help students to be confident and competent in their learning, and that learning is seen as being not just for students, it's part of the entire school culture.
How are you doing? I guess I'm just researching.
That school culture is striking to a first-time visitor. Instead of teachers delivering lessons, students seem to be on their own.
When one comes in and they see kids in the halls and they see kids in small groups and in large groups, the next step is for somebody to really investigate what are those kids doing.
He's longer. Yeah, that one's longer.
X equals 10 over 6. 10 over 6.
You have children sitting in a small group, sitting by themselves, and they're actively engaged in learning. That to me means that they have an investment in their learning, and the result is going to be a great deal more successful than if somebody is telling them that they have to sit there and have to do a certain event because it's time to do that, and the curriculum calls for that.
One word heard often around New Suncook is choices. And nowhere are choices more apparent than in the multi-age classrooms.
And what is different. And I think Mrs. Steller has a couple of new centers also.
At the listening center, you can read I Know an Old Lady and listen to the tape. And at the math center, you have to do a sequencing activity, right? So you're going to put things in the right order. And today is the last day to do an insect puzzle in the art center.
See this little thing on the end of it? That's what they mean by club.
Multi-age classes are one feature of New Suncook. Kindergarten, first grade, and second grade are all grouped together. And for 1 hour each day, there's something called centering. The children are free to choose from a wide range of learning center activities. Creative writing, art, perhaps just drawing a birthday card.
You can draw a balloon, you can draw a picture, you can draw a picture inside, you can draw something on the back, you can do balloons, anything you can do. But you can't forget happy birthday. Nick, which jar is going to hold more?
And every activity, no matter how unimportant it looks, has a purpose.
They get to see how rice will pour out easily out of some containers and not out of others. And they're just discovering on their own what they can do with this bird seed. But in years to come, they'll be studying volume, and they'll be studying measuring, and they'll be able to see. You know, they'll have already played with the containers and things.
Linda DeShane has taught at New Suncook for 12 years. She and Lauren Potter were instrumental in starting the multi-age classes 4 years ago. their primary consideration was children and how they learn.
I think we really work hard at trying to think like a child, think about how children put the world together. And then we try to take the information that we're trying to give to them and bring it to them in a way that makes sense to them and not isolated and separated in little pieces and expect them to make the connections.
The various activities may look haphazard, but everything is planned in intricate detail. For example, Linda Deshane and Karen Johnson meet every morning to develop a lesson plan for the day.
I didn't know whether we could use this, whether a pop-up beak thing, after we've done the beaks, whether, I haven't tried to put one together again yet.
Even if they just do it, they don't have to make a story, they can just do it with the art time.
Yeah.
The plan is followed when their classes are combined for the 1 hour of centering time. 2 teachers and 50 young children who choose their own activities.
The children are in control of their choices, but the teacher is responsible for finding out the needs of the kids and giving them choices within a range of activities. And when you have children long enough, you can almost tell when a child is choosing something because it's easy or because it's he'll get done quickly, or if he's choosing it because it's a challenge. Right now it's time for you to clean up your space and go to your meeting area.
There's no doubt that teachers are in control, and they're expected to produce measurable results.
There's a tremendous amount of assessment that goes on within a day and within the center time. A real assessment of where each of the children are at as they move through their center time. And that's the part that we begin to talk about as staff as to what is the appropriateness of the activity. And it comes back to the question we ask often during the day is, what are we doing and why are we doing it? We feel that the activities in here are beneficial to children, that there's learning taking place, and that they fit into the context of the entire day.
Kids are involved in what they're learning, and if you're going to be a lifelong learner, you have to want to learn. And if we're excited about learning, the kids are excited about learning. So, yes.
Let me just give you a really brief overview of the school for those that aren't aware of it, and then you can just fire questions at us.
Each spring, Gary McDonald meets with parents whose children will be enrolling at New Suncook the following year. Many have reservations about the multi-age classrooms until they're reassured by other parents.
School, and I had started to come in to volunteer. I was so overwhelmed. I thought, how is he learning anything? Because, you know, I was at my desk when I was a little girl, and that's how you learned, and you did this and you did this. But Michael, his first year school, excelled in math. Flew with it. Just couldn't believe how smart this kid was in math.
By itself, multi-aging is not the answer. It's the idea of the instructional practices, the type of learning that's taking place, and that's really done throughout the building.
In fact, the building is filled with teachers who continually search for new ways to encourage learning. Linda Bradley's third graders are practicing with fractions, but not from a book.
Okay, let's see if we can take some of them away now. What's our total group that we start with? Jason?
3/3.
3/3. So how do we say 1 out of 3 is a girl? 1/3 of the group is a girl.
Have you tried him first by himself to see if he will do it without any training?
Meanwhile, Rhonda Poliquin's 4th grade class is studying mealworms.
Reacts the way he reacts.
For the most part, they work on their own in small groups.
His arm is still out. It's not across his chest yet. He got really shiny.
The class is an example of Gary McDonald's favorite saying. Students shouldn't be consumers of knowledge. They should be producers of knowledge.
What it means is that in lots of situations, students are sitting in their classroom being the receivers of information, that somebody is speaking to them. What we rather think that we're doing is putting kids into situations where they're actually taking that and applying it and creating, again, situations for the kids where they need to problem solve and be critical thinkers, and that they're the ones that are producing those pieces of knowledge instead of simply sitting there and listening.
Even when a class is conducted in the traditional way, teacher up front, students in their seats, there's an attempt to make learning an active process.
Okay, so what do we need to do first? Morgan.
How many times does 7 go into 43? You know, and 42.
It goes in 42 times?
It goes in 6 times.
6
and
times.
And then 42.
Where did you add the extra step?
I still got 60. I already brought down the 6.
You brought the same number down twice, right?
Hey, good for you. What's that word?
Tyree.
New Suncook students are encouraged to be creative. So are the teachers. They're free to try anything to reach children, as long as it works.
I'm not comfortable with sitting in my office and saying that everyone needs to teach in a certain way. I trust the professional. I trust the professional in the classroom to make decisions based on the needs of the group and the individuals in that group to meet the outcomes. The accountability aspect comes in when we check the outcomes and to be sure that those outcomes are being met.
Yeah, he just eats and eats and eats and eats and eats. What's he eating there?
Those outcomes are judged in various ways. Every child at New Suncook is continually monitored to determine strengths and weaknesses. And there are standardized tests in reading, writing, and math. New Suncook scores are in the top 20% of all Maine schools. This academic success is partly due to the atmosphere that's been created at New Suncook.
We kind of share what the problem with the book is.
Rosie White's class is reading a novel called Tuck Everlasting. In the novel, one character can drink from a stream and live forever.
Do you think Winnie's going to drink the water, or do you not think Winnie's going to drink the water, and why?
I think Winnie will follow Tuck's advice and not drink the water, because, you know, she might not want to live forever.
Katie?
Well, I think if everybody drank it, and there's lots of kids in the world, if they drank it too, then there wouldn't be as many people born. And like if, let's say, Albert Einstein's mother was young or something and she drank it, then he would never be born.
Why? Why are they doing
These are fifth graders, but the atmosphere is more like that of a college classroom.
I think the more you expect of children, the higher they reach. I mean, you're not going to set goals that you know they can't attain, but kids really like to talk, and if they really like to have the feeling that their view is really respected. And I think a lot of people in this building, besides myself, really believe in doing that.
Yeah, if you drank that water while you were wicked sick, you'd stay sick. You'd never get better, you'd never get worse. That being
And I drink it when I'm 99.
You think you'll live to be 99?
Probably. My grandfather did.
Oh, all right.
Respect for children is evident throughout the school. There's also a widespread respect for parents. They're invited to spend as much time as possible in the classroom. Valerie Wilfong has 2 children at New Suncook. She volunteers 2 mornings a week.
We thought it was going to be a cat.
Well, it's great for parents, for one thing, to be able to be part of what's happening and see what's happening in the classroom. And it's great where all the children are working at their own pace to be able to have an extra pair of hands to listen to one group while the teacher's working more intensively with someone else. So I think it is a great benefit for everybody.
I have several parent volunteers, and I really depend on them when they're here because it's like an extra hand, and they really want to know what's going on in the school, and it's great to have them here to be able to, for their help, but also for their enthusiasm and support they can lend to the school. So they're not in the way at all.
The school tries to expose students to the world outside of rural Maine. That's appreciated by parents like Brenda Thibodeau. She owns a large farm that grows trees and potatoes. 3 of the Thibodeau children have attended New Suncook. They've come away with more than just a sound education.
New Suncook provides the rural children an opportunity to cultural enrichment, to open their doors to see what's outside of this small area, what's in the cities, what it's like to be elsewhere. To bring that in, they've tried real hard to pull that into the school.
Part of that enrichment comes through field trips. On this day, a few classes are off on a 1-hour bus ride. Destination, the Maine Conservation School. Each year, New Suncook has a theme. This year, it's air and space. The students have been studying ornithology and entomology for 8 months.
Insects having their homes under logs, so let's look under this log and see if we can find anything, okay?
Now it's time to get some real-life experience.
What do you see?
The beetle.
Yeah, you want to
Don't
get that
touch
beetle?
it, might be poisonous.
Oh, it's okay.
We try to have kids, for the most part, have hands-on and a lot of choice. And so here, what you're seeing is children moving around, experiencing what they're trying to learn, as opposed to just sitting down and soaking it up with someone telling them about it. They're experiencing it firsthand.
Then he wished he were
The field trip is a time of intensive learning that's integrated around the theme of air and space. For language arts, there's a story about a caterpillar.
He just thinks that he's never, ever going to turn into that butterfly. So he cries and cries and cries. What is it you want to do with it?
Then there's art, combined with entomology. The children are asked to make their own insect, one that can camouflage itself.
I don't know.
He's neat, huh? Where would he be camouflaged, Mom? You didn't even see him down there, did you? Let's put him back.
All this is obviously a great deal of fun.
What are these funny things up top?
Antennas.
What, so they can get MTV? What are the antennas for?
So they won't die.
Well,
But it's more than just fun, a fact that isn't lost on these children.
By learning that there's different kinds of insects and that people are like cutting down trees where butterflies migrate, so the butterflies die because they don't have no place to go in the winter.
Thing you need? Have you done wings or anything?
Back at school, the integrated learning continues. Students are encouraged to write about the insects they saw. Once again, the knowledge comes from the children.
They are red and black. They have 3 body parts.
Okay, now you didn't put down the 3 body parts. Do you know what they are?
No.
Yes, you do. What are they? Head, thorax, and abdomen. Where are the wings?
Even in music class, where students are getting ready for a school performance, the songs are about flowers and insects. This week includes another field trip, this one for teachers. New Suncook's theme next year will be water, and the teachers have to learn before they can teach.
Yeah, once we came with the that was a short trip.
They'll be bringing their classes to this bog, and the children will be asked to search for bugs and worms.
When you bring your kids here, getting right down and digging in just like you're doing is very important to show that you're not afraid to pick up squiggly things in the mud, because, you know, nothing's going to hurt you here.
Oh, we have some in there.
Here we go, this one.
This one, yeah.
This field trip is voluntary, but it's attended by nearly every teacher in the school.
Certainly in a school like New Suncook, and I think a lot of schools where there's really committed people, these people are out on their own. They're involved in their staff development activity. Really, they can relate back to the classroom and can relate to trying to make better things for kids in classrooms.
Part of the framework of what your job involves when you're actively involving kids is to, I mean, you have to become involved yourself. You can't just learn it from a book.
And I was just saying on the way up here, just, walking, I've learned so much, just the stuff that we've tried to present to kids and have them experience. Stuff that I certainly didn't know.
I want to find a little...
The teachers at New Suncook seem to work as a genuine team.
Here we go, this one.
In many ways, so do the students. Their learning is usually done in groups, meaning they have to get along. That idea of cooperative education is stressed throughout the school, even in physical education.
This is the red team, and that's the yellow team.
Phys ed specialist Robert Davis emphasizes cooperation, not competition. In this game, the object is to knock a tennis ball off a pylon. Students quickly learn that the best way to do it is by passing to their teammates.
If they can't get along with each other, they're not going to be able to focus on the psychomotor skills. So, and that's my philosophy of physical education. That's probably the most important part, is that that they learn how to get along with each other. The effective development in children, I think, is very important. And this is a great medium to focus on that.
That next day, I was in a chrysalis.
Meanwhile, this cooperative exercise is meant to focus on creative writing. Once a week, students of all ages gather in small groups. They take turns reading stories they've written and asking for help.
Any way I can make my story better? It's really a little confusing. You need to organize it a little more. I bet the story would be good if you added on more to it.
The effort to encourage cooperation extends throughout New Suncook. Each day, older students volunteer to pass some of their knowledge on to younger ones.
I'm in second.
He's in second. I'm in 5th grade, and they're learning fractions, and the 5th graders are here to help them. It's fun, and we get the choice if we want to come down here or not.
To teach him how to do stuff and set a good example for 5th grade when he gets up there, so he does it when he gets down here.
The purpose isn't just to have kids teaching one another facts. It's also a perfect example of modeling.
Have you finished it?
What is not 1/6 of black?
Modeling is children looking up to other children and doing what they're doing.
Because I use 7 cubes.
It's not just the teacher who's going to model something for another child. Kids can model for other children, teaching them how to write. A young child says, "Oh, you're writing," and those kids will just start copying them.
Who would like to review the rules?
In order to foster even greater cooperation, Rosie White uses something called the magic circle. For 1 hour each week, her students are free to talk or complain about anything they want. A student is in charge, and Rosie White is just another participant.
On someone in the other room. At snack time, he came up to me, and this is gross. He opened his mouth with food in it, and then he spit it at me.
How did you handle it?
I said someone's name, and I said, "That's gross," and walked off and he laughed.
It's not really group therapy. It's part of my philosophy of making kids feel good about themselves and learning that they can say what they want and their opinion counts, and they can solve problems or injustices, maybe is a better word, vocally, rather than keeping them inside themselves or physically dealing with them.
And then the kids in Mrs. Parker's class think they're so cool. Like, they're going around, well, they're always thinking they're so cool.
I just have one thing to
The
say.
magic circle might seem like pop psychology, but again, it's intended to encourage learning.
Counting, and only a couple of people seem to argue.
For students to be able to learn, they need to feel comfortable about themselves and to get the most out of what you can teach them, to feel they're respected, their opinion is valued, and they're worth something. And so I think the mood in a room is so important.
One thing is very noticeable around New Suncook. There's very little emphasis on discipline. According to Gary McDonald, that's a side effect of the school environment.
Someone might see this as being a laid-back situation. On the other hand, it's structured to such an extent in many ways that discipline does not become a problem because the kids are always engaged and they're always involved and they're invested in their learning and they're raising questions. And when children are in those situations, I think that discipline becomes less of a factor.
If children talking to children is inappropriate behavior, then I guess we have no discipline. But we feel that children learning to talk to each other, cooperate, work together, is preparing them for their life way down the line and working in team projects. So that isn't an issue.
New Suncook has the most extensive special education program in the district. It's the receiving school for children with severe emotional and learning disabilities. And those children are taught much like all the other children. Alice Holt is one of 3 full-time special ed teachers. She spends part of her day on intensive individual instruction.
Did you know that was a sentence?
Yes.
You did know? Then how come you didn't put a capital at the beginning of it? Can you fix it?
But most of her time is spent in regular classrooms. She's there to help all the students, not just those who are labeled special ed.
What we're trying to do is have the kids become really members of the classroom instead of separate. There's so many times where I'd come to a classroom and it might be, Bobby, Mrs. Holt's here to get you, and now there's none of that. It's sort of you come in the classroom and you're sort of freebie for anybody that might want you. And there's lots of kids in the middle who just want a question answered or, a little bit of help or some attention for something good that they did. And they love it to have somebody else that they can talk to.
Cooperative learning, multi-age grouping, integrated curriculum, a positive environment.
Great job. Are you proud of yourself?
These elements and many others have played a role in making New Suncook an exemplary school. It's the culmination of a process that began 9 years ago when Gary McDonald and his staff got together to write down their vision, then turned it into a reality.
My vision, I think the vision of the school and a lot of the activities we do is that kids are lifelong learners and that learning doesn't stop. Learning is a lifelong activity. It isn't only in school, it's not only in class, it happens in many, many different activities, many different avenues, and that hopefully people recognize that, and that schooling is not the only place that it can happen. But all those put together create a context which hopefully maximize an individual's capacity to do what they would like to do with their life and to be a contributing member of society.